but yeah.
When we were saying, look like had set up that final kick, the people been slipping all over the field.
No.
Oh,
Showed their kicker on that kick,
Yeah.
how bad he's slipped.
All right. Okay, good morning. Welcome to the February 13th meeting of the Raleigh County Commissioners. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the
Allegiance
flag
to the flag
of the United
of
States
the
of America and to the republic for which it stands,
which is
one nation, under God.
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
That
for all.
really awesome.
You see the new spreaders we got, John?
I was just noticing those. I wanted to wait to comment, but they look amazing on live streams. Give thanks to Vivian on that. Good call.
okay, good.
Okay, great. Okay, any public comments? Do you have anything public comment or are you gonna wait?
Yeah.
Don't see anybody else. Okay, we'll go to commission comments. Commissioner McKinley.
Okay. Well, Thursday evening, I attended the RCPD Director Pete's town hall meeting in Leonardville. He kind of outlined his history and why he came to RCPD, answered questions from the residents. There's about a dozen people there, I think. They introduced all the North County officers, or most of them that were there. And they got to discuss some things with people, and some other people had questions about some of the things, because there's certain things they do in North County that aren't the same as Manhattan. They kind of went over some of the things they do. It was a good meeting. And then after the meeting, I had some people asking me about the new ambulance station. What's the status? One of the as far as it's going. So that was good to hear that. Saturday, worked on my income taxes and then watched the K-State basketball game. I wasn't happy with the results on either one of those. Yeah, Sunday was better. Watched the Super Bowl, and my son's family had good game, good food. That's what I thought. The governors of Kansas and Missouri should have declared it a state holiday today, though, right?
I agree, or Wednesday when they're having the parade.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of school districts closed down in Kansas City for Wednesday.
Oh, really? For the parade?
Well, they didn't even.
They already have. They've already closed school.
Governors, so. Okay, John, your comments?
Yes. Good morning, everybody, from our nation's capital. Getting started here on a new week. Guess I'll start off with the elephant in the room, I guess. Congratulations to the Chiefs. What a game last night. I watched it here from the International Ballroom here at the Hilton. So there was about 2,000 people, probably the largest Super Bowl party I'll ever attend in my life. And I can tell you with certainty that it was overwhelmingly Kansas City. Probably makes sense out here in Washington. Philadelphia is a natural rival, but it was 4-1, I would probably say. And you can tell who was from Kansas and Missouri for sure. So pretty cool from that perspective. As you're probably aware, Friday morning, I took the early bird flight out of Manhattan here to DC for the 2023 legislative conference by the National Association of Counties. Got in here kind of mid-afternoon, just kind of got settled in and so on and so forth. Saturday, spent the entire day with the NACO Community Economic and Workforce Development Committee that I serve on. That's since September of 2020. We had some opening remarks from our chair, got an overview of the reauthorization of the Farm Bill by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, got a follow-up update on economic development efforts and programs from the United States Department of Commerce, got an update and an overview on both employment training and the training programs from the ETA, which is kind of contained within the United States Department of Labor, an update on community planning development, plus an overview on CDBG funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, an update on federal recovery efforts in regards to COVID funds and other related programs from the Department of Treasury. And then after lunch, we got an update from Lucas McGowan, who's the Senior Advisor for Economic Development for the White House. Spent some time going through the CHIPS incentive program and really in depth, probably the more in depth update I've gotten on that so far. And we followed up with a panel discussion titled, "Are you utilizing your county staff?" Interesting discussion there. A lot of pros and cons. After that discussion, we went directly into our committee business meeting, voted on one interim policy resolution that will get voted on in July. It's a federal fiscal appropriation for the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Lastly, we had an open floor discussion with the county officials from around the country, dialoguing about the challenges and issues our nation's counties are facing. Saturday night, I too watched that K-State game. Another ugly loss. Couldn't overcome just bad shooting. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, but you definitely can't overcome 24 turnovers. And I just facepalm, as you can see. Yesterday morning, I got up early and went out to the Lincoln Memorial at daybreak to celebrate what would have been his 214th birthday. Obviously, growing up in his birthplace county in Kentucky was kind of a cool moment. It was pouring down rain and stuff, but it was still a cool moment, something I wanted to do. I didn't think I may get another opportunity to do. When I came back, I attended the Rural Action Caucus Committee meeting. We heard from several pretty good speakers over the 2-hour session, including administration officials from the Department of Justice, Department of Agriculture, Department of Commerce, as well as some private partners, including Amazon, the Rural Justice Collaborative, and the Fletcher Group, who actually works out of Kentucky on rural policy initiatives. Sunday afternoon, after lunch, I attended the Veteran and Military Service Committee meeting. There were several different moderated panels to discuss such topics as priorities for serving veterans in the 118th Congress, honoring the recently passed PACT Act, and dialogue on how the implementation is going so far. And then we had a panel on federal and local policy levers to combat military food insecurities. And lastly, there was a federal advocacy and strategy session to end the meeting. And as I mentioned earlier, I watched the game last night. Like I said, 2,000 people. We had food station after food station. There's no way I could do all that. But once again, congratulations to Kansas City. And lastly, also on a much more sad note, I wanted to send my condolences to the Vanier family on the passing of Jack Vanier, who apparently passed away Friday at the age of 94. True K-State legend who had a big heart and always bled purple. Will be very much so missed by the K-State family moving forward. And just to give everybody a heads up, I may be in and out of the meeting. I'm going to switch from my laptop to my phone so I can head downstairs. So if I disappear, I didn't do it intentionally. And that's all I've got this morning.
Okay, thanks for that report.
Mm-hmm.
Is it still pouring out there, raining?
No, it's not a cloud in the sky and beautiful. It's supposed to be in the 60s, and I hear it's going to be snowing when I get back. So I'm already used to Kansas again already.
If you get some free time, enjoy DC.
We will. Thank you.
Okay. My Thursday after the meeting, visited with Amanda and planning, went over a final draft of the Keats proposal, which I'll share with you guys when I can. And then I worked in the office for several hours. Didn't do a whole lot Thursday night, except for doing some church business. Friday, I visited with the county clerk and then spent time in my office going through documents for today's meeting. Weekend included watching K-State basketball game until I got a little tired of it. So I got to do something else, like go outside and take the dog for a long walk. And then I did watch the Super Bowl on Sunday night with some friends and ate a lot of food and had a good time. And the ending was the best. So anyway, that's about it for me. So we move on to business meeting.
No business, commissioners. John, you still on, John?
I am.
Okay, just one topic. I have one, I was gonna do it at the end of the meeting, but since you might be in and out, I've had 2 county commissioners come to me with concerns about parking. Now that the city has changed their parking rules and regulations, county commissioners come here to do business, kind of like Catherine just said on Friday, she was here and did a lot of business. So I've had 2 come to me and say, we need to do something about the parking situation. Would the commission be in favor of just making your 3 commission spots reserved for county commission solely during the week? Because I know at least I know 2 county commissioners have come to me with concerns about it.
The only thing I would think of is could you just make one of them permanent? Because how many times, I don't know, we haven't been all 3 of us, and rarely, I mean, there's even one, usually there's only one of us at a time, or I haven't been here usually when John or Catherine, I've been here. Maybe just making one of them permanent.
Yeah, just some kind of solution. I know that 2 commissioners. It's kind of a problem. It was even a problem before at times for commissioners before the new parking rules and regulations. Now I think it's just gotten exacerbated. So whatever solution the board wants to, but I know it is a problem because commissioners do come and utilize their offices.
Yeah, when I was there, I was parking over in your parking lot, which is an hour, and I'm going, oh, don't tow me away, please.
Yeah, oh, which one?
Yeah, and so, well,
This one up front.
Yeah,
the one by your office, the one for the public.
Yeah, and see.
I don't like to park there because there's like.
Yeah, and see, that's the reason, you know, that the county bought that parking lot where your parking spots are, is because, you know, we wanted to keep that one open for the public. So Catherine has a good point, you know, that's doing just the opposite of what we want, you know, not to have the public, you know, and so, and I understand, I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying. So if we can find a solution for the board.
I like to ask you something. When
I was at, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, John.
I was actually thinking the same thing you were thinking, Red, but one of the other concerns I have is when other officials come down for a meeting, or they come down for an interview, or they come down to do an interview process, are they going to be here later than 2 hours? I mean, this might solve the problem for us, and that's one thing, but what about others who use those parking spots there on the street on the north side of that parking lot there?
Well, all the other department heads have a reserved spot, either right on the east side of the county office building or in the parking lot with the commissioner. So department head level, that's
Not all of them, not the
Correct.
ones that don't work downtown, the health department.
well, you know, agreed. Yeah, agreed. Yeah,
Right.
I don't, yeah. You reserve spots for them, and then, yeah, you will be taking a lot of that parking lot. A lot of them, honestly, either park on the street or sometimes park in our front parking lot because they're here for half hour.
Okay. I wasn't for sure on that. I've seen several times where they've parked on the north side of the street there. We just need to make sure they know that there's a 2-hour limit if you're going to be here 2 hours.
Yeah, the one that'd be most difficult for is John Ellerman, as the commission knows. He sits in here
Yeah.
frequently on Mondays and Thursdays, so that one position would have the most difficult time. But if it got too bad, you know, I'd just say we tell them to park in our parking lot up front.
Well,
Okay.
I'd like to see it consistent and have all 3, but, you know, because there could be a time like when we have some public meetings, that kind of thing, where we're all here on a different day, or in the afternoons. I think I know if I had the parking, I'd spend a lot more time here in the office, so.
But as I'm saying, I don't.
Well, let's do this. Let's try one
Probably
first
want to just see how that
and
works.
see how it goes. And if we need to do all 3 at that point in time, then we can do all 3. Does that sound fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
How good is that?
Okay, well, yeah, we'll see how it goes.
And see where,
Yeah.
Take care of it.
And you want that sign for towing? Is that what you're saying? Because the city has specific rules about signage, so.
Oh.
And just during the week or?
All the time, I think. Well, John, you come in here on weekends sometimes, don't you?
I do. And sometimes when I come in on weekends or after business hours, I can park up front in one of those spots. I usually take
Usually
yours.
there's a lot of,
so you know
usually a
that
whole lot of.
nobody else is here,
Weekends,
so that's
a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
it's during the business day, it's during that 7 to 5 time frame that it's a concern.
So it's during those hours.
That's
Right.
I'm glad you brought that up. So the commissioners are in favor of just during the week, and are you in favor of, 7 to 6 or just 24 hours, that one spot that you're agreeing upon? It's just, we have to have it clear on the
What are
signage.
yours? Are yours during the week? Or
They're-
the time where-
Say on those signs, I do not know.
I think it's,
I think it just says county reserve. It's a brown sign that says county.
we went through
reserve.
so many permutations
have
of signage.
changed so
I
many
don't
times.
know.
Yeah.
I don't
There's
know.
2 of them over there that are brown that just say county reserve, and to me that means you don't park in them. But
Public officials.
Right, but
Yeah, there's-
the key is if you want the,
There's a man or Hannah's one.
Yeah.
I'll check the hours of these and then what those say over there and come
Yeah.
back with the
Okay.
commissioners and say, we have to have it clear because for enforcement, but then also for the sign that's made.
Yeah.
Sure, because otherwise it's meaningless.
Is it okay with the commissioners? We just do the one close the furthest to the south
Yeah,
first.
the one.
Yes,
Yeah.
And then if you decide later you want all three, let us know. I'm in favor of all. I mean, you guys need to have someplace to park when you come down to do
Yeah.
business. Thank you, commissioners. Any changes to the minutes?
I didn't see any.
I didn't see anything. I can go ahead then and make a motion to approve the minutes as written from the Riley County Commission meeting dated February 9th.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the February 9th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Tentative agenda is okay, commissioners?
Yes.
Any items for next week's press conference?
Unless anybody wants me to do a little bit more of an in-depth overview out here, that would be the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Okay, I can probably put together
Rather
5
than
minutes or something.
Yeah.
For the press conference?
Yeah.
And have him give an
Yeah.
update. What's going on?
Is there a specific name to that meeting that you're at, John?
Yeah, it's the NACO Legislative Conference.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, well, I guess the next is Catherine Hensler, right?
Yep, Catherine Hensler at 9 o'clock is next. Have a little bit of a break.
And while we're on here, Rich, before I forget, I think it was Burnett Coggins from Wyandotte County. Used to be a former clerk.
Who is it?
Last name is Coggins. I may not have her first name right. I'm horrible with names. Wyandotte County.
Not ringing a bell.
Okay. She knows you and she wanted me to tell you hi.
Gotcha.
She's an assistant administrator there now, and I think she was a clerk maybe a decade or so ago.
What was her last name?
Coggins?
Oh, Bridget?
Yes.
Yeah, she's a great lady. Her son was a good running back. I don't know where he went to play college football. He's looking at K-State. Bridget's a super lady. Yep,
Ended up playing at Northwest Missouri State. We talked about it.
yep, she's super nice, as you saw.
She wanted me to tell you hello and hope you're doing well.
Good deal. Yeah, I like her a lot. She's a very nice lady.
Number goes way back. Okay, no,
Bridget's super nice.
Well, I have to tell you, there's several people that have, it's a good time just to mention this since we're on live stream and we got time, but I've had several county officials, not just from Kansas, reach out to me about our staff and officials that go to places. So it's all been very, very complimentary too. So
So then COVID, I feel fine, but unless I take this one nasal spray my wife has at home, I get congested on mornings and in the evenings, and it's one that you're not supposed to take long term, it's a really
No.
high powered one. And I tell you, did, and I'm trying to use an allergy one now, and it doesn't work as well. That other one throws me up, but man, mornings and evenings, I'm just all right here.
I was that way too, but mine, and now it's gotten back where I can't sunlight. Yeah, I had the same, and I was just, for a month, I
Gives me
congested, was tired all
Mine is
afternoon.
headache right in here, So I was trying to do the right thing and get off of that more high powered nasal spray, but I'm gonna have to go back to it because it's not
Was
worth
that,
selling.
was that Flonase, is that what you're doing?
I don't know what it is. It's something my wife had that she said worked really well, she COVID before me and
Well, Flonase, which is an allergy, but it used to be prescription, it came off prescription.
and that's what I
a couple years
think the
ago.
one is I did this morning. I have one that's for my allergies and it's just not as good, Tried it this morning and it's just not working. Catherine, how are you? Good.
Good
Morning.
In last night.
Yes.
Rich, I have copies of the newsletter that the museums put out. Is that something that I can distribute to commissioners?
Okay, absolutely. Please do. Yeah.
Clancy gets his own too.
Have a good weekend?
Oh, good.
Good.
Yeah, the sheets one.
Yes. Right, yeah, that helps, doesn't it? Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, I feel it was very productive. Lots of stuff just around the house getting done with the nice weather.
Yeah,
So,
nice weather today.
yeah. Don't get used to it.
Yeah, wait till Thursday.
Yeah, it looks like right now it's one of those kind of could go either way.
Oh, is that what they're saying?
We get a dusting or we get a bunch of snow.
I heard we're like in a 50% chance of 4 inches or more.
Ooh. I hadn't read that yet.
Yeah,
Oh, well, I guess it is still February.
yeah, I think,
Just reminding us, yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Spring's not here yet.
And they always do another spring snowstorm. Last year it was like March.
Yeah. Yeah,
Lots of snow.
agreed.
I think we've been pretty lucky this winter. It
Yeah.
hasn't been too terrible. We've had some cold days, but
We've got some moisture, some rain.
Yeah, I know,
Snow
and
is
it
always
just-
nice.
And even what little we've gotten for the winter time, the trees and the rest of the vegetation isn't absorbing it up, so it actually goes, to the
Yeah.
creeks, stays in the ground and.
Now, we've got pictures when I was a little kid. The snow, we built a big snowman and everything was April.
Yeah,
Oh, John,
Those,
yeah.
those things come, and then they're gone and.
Yeah,
Because a couple of
no
days,
spray.
but it dumped.
Yeah, I have a picture. of
you got a
that.
hitch in your
I
get
saw him
along?
last year on like
Got
March,
this.
and he was jumping in the snow, he'd never seen it.
Good.
That was a great time.
Thought you looked a little different in your gait this morning.
It's slow and wobbly.
Hey, John, you still on? John? You there, John? That's not funny, was. Didn't even go out to the open house floor, or John, did you, for the city facility opening?
Oh, no, I forgot all about it.
The county was going or not? You know.
Something, what was on the news is something, they say it cost 22 million.
22 million. Doesn't surprise me, because I think ours was 12 or 13 back then.
That's with all the equipment. and everything on top of it. That's a lot.
Ours equipment, I don't know, if the equipment being far.
No equipment, never just facilities. We did a lot of work ourselves as far as grading. We did all the asphalt ourselves.
Millions.
Oh, service.
Yeah.
It was well overdue. They needed something much better than they had.
Well, yeah, and they got it spread out over, what, 5 or 6 more places.
Yeah,
And they didn't have a place big enough, but the fire trucks had to be worked on outside because they didn't fit in any of the buildings.
yeah.
The one picture I saw showed fires.
Yeah, they had, well, that was it was.
A spot, yeah.
Yeah,
Hanging
they
upside
picked
down.
which one, did myself.
Hope they're not, they didn't need
Yeah,
to
which
be
one
worked
they
on
wanted.
in the.
What'd you say?
Just hope they didn't need to be worked on in the.
Oh, you know they always do. That's when things break.
Yeah.
Nothing worse than working on a car outside and it's like below freezing.
Yeah.
Busting knuckles against metal.
Bad enough when it's warm.
Exactly. Actually, you can do it.
Okay, Catherine.
Good morning, Commissioner. Catherine Hensler, Director of Riley County Historical Museum, with a monthly staff report. I have good news to report that our visitation has been up from the last 2 months, so we're always excited for that. In the month of January, there were 192 visitors to the museum, 90 to the Goodnow House, and 21 to the Wolf House Museum. And of course, the Pioneer Log Cabin is closed for the season, and we're already planning its reopening in April. Volunteer hours are also up this month. Last month was around 39. This month we've got 45.75. And then we are, I mentioned a little farther into my report, but I'll mention it again. Good marketing. We will be having a volunteer recruitment and meet and greet event this upcoming Saturday, the 18th. at the Manhattan Public Library. So all are invited. If you're free and want to come and meet everybody, please do. You are most welcome to be there. As far as education and outreach, February is Black History Month, and the museum is very excited to be able to provide programs and content related to our African American heritage here in Riley County and the state of Kansas. Curator Melanie Highsmith and myself will be participating in the Key Man in Focus segment scheduled to air next Monday on February 20th. We will be speaking on the Yuma Street Historic District, which is a new historic district recently added to the National Register. We will also be talking about the people who live, work, and worship there, and also lived, worked, and worship. As we like to remind everybody in the history world, we are living history every day. So we feel very honored that we're able to speak on that. And we do hope to add a special guest. This person hasn't confirmed yet, but it may not just be Melanie and I rattling on. We may have one of our local community members who is instrumental in the nomination of that historic district joining us. Curator Highsmith has installed a new temporary exhibit at the county office building. That one is about Martin Luther King Jr.'s Key State Address that happened in 1968, just 4 months before he was assassinated. I think it's a very poignant exhibit. It talks a little bit about the climate of just politics at that time, but also brings it back to our community's history and the public opinions and thoughts and commentary on that. She'll also be adding another in the county courthouse, which will be on the Exodusters in Kansas. Please stop by both of those public spaces and take a look. And we also encourage the community members to come and take a look at them. Those are in public spaces and those are free. There are no admissions charged. Our museum hosted Kansas Day open house on Sunday, January 29th from 3 to 5. Admission was free and we offered guided tours, game, of museum bingo and cupcakes that had sunflowers on them. We had 33 visitors attend, and we thank all of the Historical Society board members, museum trustees, and the county commissioners who visited. We had 5 staff people working that afternoon, and 2 of our Historical Society volunteers assisted. Curator Highsmith and I recently met with the director of the Chapman Center for Rural Studies. We're beginning to plan some partnership opportunities. Some of the projects discussed were possible internships, resource sharing for digitization and collections management projects. They have a lot of great resources. We used to be involved with them, but then of course COVID hit and everything kind of slowed down. But we are very excited to be in this re-collaboration with them after this multi-year hiatus. The museum is also working with Dr. Lauren Ritterbush in the Archaeology and Anthropology Department at K-State concerning hands-on educational programs for their new museum studies certificate. We'll be able to offer internships to those students, and then we'll also be doing what we would consider field trips, but hands-on walkthrough of our museum so they can see how a museum works from behind the scenes. And I think that's also really great for these young people who are going into the field to also understand some of the challenges that small museums have. Our museum assistant, Lisa Jones, and the Historical Society's Communications Committee just recently finished and distributed the Society's January-February newsletter. You have a copy in front of you. That's also coming through electronically, and we are posting on social media. And then to follow that up too, we'll also have that posted on our website. We do, want to really make sure that we are marketing the programs we're offering and talking about the exciting things happening at the museum. We're going to be trying to get these out on a bi-monthly basis. We won't be sending them through the mail through those bi-monthly schedules, but we really are going to stress the importance of people getting on our mailing list or the electronic mailing list. Right now, on our mailing list, we have about 27% have emails. And what we've realized out of those 27%, about 6% work. So we really need to make a push in 2023 to capture and gather emails of our constituents. That's going to be cost effective for us to be able to get material out. The museum can't afford mailings every other month. So that will be one of our goals this year. We will be hosting, like I mentioned, the Volunteer Appreciation Recruitment and Meet and Greet this upcoming Saturday, February 18th at the Manhattan Public Library. We'll be using this event as a time to thank our current volunteers, but also to give people who may be interested in volunteering with the organization a chance to meet the staff, a chance to meet other volunteers, and we're just going to sit around and have coffee and cookies and chat, get to know one another, and we'll be providing a brief presentation about the museum and the opportunities involved. This is free. It's open to everyone in the community, and it doesn't matter if you volunteered before or not. We'd love to have anyone with an interest there. Concerning the museum's collections, the collections committee met on January 18th, and they discussed the deaccessioning of a few items, which will be presented to the Riley County Historical Society's board meeting in March. The committee members were also at that time given a tour of the temporary and permanent storage in the museum. Because, excuse me, we have a new board, we do have new committee members that aren't necessarily familiar with all of the goings on at the museum. So trying to get everybody through and let them see kind of the condition of the museum, the collections, a little bit about our storage issues, and really give them a handle, because they are the ones that are going to be making these decisions for us from the perspective of the collections. In the month of January, the museum received 2 donations, which consisted of 132 items. Our curator Munger is going through them, of course, and processing them at this time. She's also been working on reconciling the collection that's housed at the Wolf House Museum. This, excuse me, includes the comparison of accession numbers that were assigned to these items at their donation, and then making sure that they are listed appropriately in our database. This is a process that should be done on a regular schedule, approximately every other year. She was able to go through during the year of COVID and get our records up to date, but previous to that, there really had never been a full-scale reconciliation. So we're trying to get this on a more regular schedule, and that really helps us understand not just making sure that our records are accurate, but if we've experienced any loss or depreciation. We do look through the collection, but we also look at the condition of the building and the interiors at that time as well. As far as the archives and library, we are embarking on a new project. The museum's digital library has countless unnecessary duplicates being hosted on its servers. And what I'm speaking about is various versions of digital photos. We have an original that has been digitized at a very high quality. And then over the course of the many years, anytime that photo's been used, a new copy has been created. So we might have 1 digital copy of a historic photo and 6 digital copies of that same photo. One of our staff members, museum assistant Hal Dace, is leading that project with a team of other assistants to clean up the excessive files, organize them, and give them their appropriate digital reading systems. This is a huge step for our museum. Excuse me, and we are very excited to see this housekeeping take place. Mr. Davis has developed an intricate matrix that allows anyone working on the project to clearly understand how to handle each file and manage it. And great care is being taken to mitigate data loss. And through the implication of this matrix, really creating a safeguarding of our digital collection. So we're very happy to see that take place. A few of our museum assistants have also begun assisting with research requests. Last month, they provided our team and the public with material on Father Padilla monuments that we learned are not in town. We had a request come in, and someone had a memory of encountering these monuments as a young person living here in Manhattan. We did the research, and what we found out is that his memory was not correct. He was thinking of another community. So it was good for us though to see, just the history of where it was with City Park. We reached out to other local partnerships, had the conversation. It took about 3 weeks to get through, but we do those kinds of things every day, and they are exciting. We also have those museum assistants recording obituaries, and we're doing a lot of in-depth research on the Goodnow family and the site at this time. We have some projects coming up that we would like to propose around that site. And so we are doing some of that preparation research. As far as building and grounds, the repairs to the Goodnow barn, the restoration to the windows, doors, hardware, and trim have been approved by the Kansas Historical Society. This is a multi-stage project that began about 3 years ago. And during the year of COVID, they were able to replace the roof. Last summer, they fixed the masonry on the barn. And this year they'll get to those other features with the doors, windows, hardware, trim. This is a project that's being fully funded through the Kansas Historical Society, and no expense will be put on the museum or our historical society. The Heritage Trust Fund held their grant application hearing on February 3rd. We were an applicant of that funding. Unfortunately, we did not receive the $34,000 we requested. So the Historical Society is aware of that, and we will be working towards other methods of funding. These are projects that must be done, and they must be done this year. So I'll report further as we go through that. Excuse me. So I'm running out of time, so I'm not gonna get through all of these. One of the interesting things that we're able to do is propose some really cool projects. So I mentioned earlier that we have a lot of things going on at the Goodnow, and so we are conducting some additional research. One of those projects proposed is to install a kitchen garden on site. That would work really well for us to create an interpretive tool and get our community involved. So we're doing research right now. We have worked with the Kansas Historical Society on some of those details. And last Monday, one of the state archaeologists were out to do a surface test on some of the soil. They took back some samples to the lab, and we will hear from them hopefully pretty soon to let us know if we can proceed with this project. We are using both Goodnow diaries and letters to determine what kind of plants might be in this garden. And then we also have some sources from the 1850s, just general on kitchen gardens and how plants were arranged and what kind of plants would have been typical for this area in that time frame. So more to come on that, but we are very excited. We'll also be working with our team to brainstorm some new exhibit ideas. We look forward to this year installing a new exhibit in our temporary gallery, which is in that area near the restrooms in the museum. But also we want to update and upgrade the permanent museum exhibits, which are in the East and West galleries. We think there's a lot of work that we can do, not necessarily to be removing and changing out a lot of items, but to be modernizing and updating our interpretation and our signage. We're also looking at some of the possibilities to include accessible aids for our community. So it might be something for hearing impaired, it might be something for Braille. We will see what kind of resources we're able to incorporate as we go. And I won't go through the rest because I am just about out of time, but I'd like to take any questions if you have any.
Like this, I think that's
Yeah,
really
that's-
nice.
Yeah.
I think that's really good.
We'll have more. They're gonna come out regularly.
That's a good format. I like your picture too. I mean,
Oh,
the
thanks.
color came out really good.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right.
Kevin.
Have a great afternoon.
Commissioner, we have Dawn, I want to 9:15. Few seconds.
Actually, I like right now.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Mullerman, Public Works Director. Go through some of these bridge projects here. A lot of them hasn't changed a whole lot. We do have easements for the Union Road culvert. So we're trying to put together some bid documents and hopefully in the next couple of months have that in front of you to open bids. Fancy Creek culvert should be, not Fancy Creek, the Flat Rock culvert should be right. Little negotiation with the landowner about removing and replacing the fence. But other than that, I think we're getting close to that too, to be able to put that up. And I've had some communications with the Corps on the Fancy Creek Road Bridge. That old truss that we've been trying to save, so. Whenever we quit playing phone tag, I'll have some more information from them. And hopefully we're getting a movement so we can start finishing up those sales tax projects here. We're still probably another year or so by the time we get them all bid out and going, but we'll get them done. Tabor Valley Bridge, our crews were out last week and removed the old bridge. Ebert has their crane out there now setting it up, and we'll start driving pile for the new bridge here today, tomorrow, through maybe Wednesday. And then after the snow, we'll get back out there and finish it up. That's one out there at Tabor Valley and Call Road, just about a mile north of Zendale. Let's see. Parks crews are kind of gearing up for the spring. They removed the tree out back last couple weeks ago. When they get enough or they're waiting to schedule the stump grinder. And they'll get it for a few days. They got this one and some out at our office and Fairmont that they want to grind to, so they'll have it for a while.
I thought that tree was big enough, could have just done it higher and left a little oak table there.
Because almost a stage.
Yeah.
They had looked at some projects around Public Works and Museum. I left that on from last time. They've been scrubbing floors at Potter Off, and they'll be going out to Keats after that to clean and scrub re-wax floors. Operation crews, let's see, we'll have some bid opening for chips for the chip seals on February 27th. And we'll open up the asphalt bids for the chip sealing on March 27th. Hopefully by the end of March, they'll get prices settled down and get stuff a decent bid. Shoe flies for the Tabor Valley have been there and getting ready to set pile this week. Crews were doing gravel road maintenance and the asphalt crews out there trimming trees along some of the asphalt roads in the right of way.
On Anderson last week.
They were on Anderson last week. Couple of elms that were made Alvin a little nervous, so we had them trimmed up and taken up. So we have not yet heard for sure of the date of the 2020 pickup truck that we ordered. It's supposed to be built, this February. It's not on the assembly line yet. And we have two more behind it that said March and April, so we'll see where they go. Hopefully they get on the line to get built. It's putting us in a bind on these old trucks and salt really taking a toll on not so much the outsides, but they kind of look bad, but even the wiring and stuff inside are starting to deteriorate some too. So not a good deal with the trucks. Headquarters station, not a whole lot of movement's been going on there. We've been you were all involved in the decision on the second floor, the spare floor and dispatch, so there hasn't been a whole lot of movement there before. Since then, I'm sure they're working on stuff, just probably boring stuff or just stuff that has to get out. The detailed stuff, right? North County Station bids are set to open March 2nd at 9 o'clock. The 27th, the week before, we'll have a pre-bid meeting in here for those contractors that are looking to bid on the station up there. Not much. We should install flow meters, a flow meter in the system at University Park to kind of get an idea what kind of flow we're getting into, size the lagoons. kind of hopefully if we have a little bit of rain, it might tell us how much infiltration we're getting in the system and help us still better yet design the lagoons. We still have an engineering tech position open. I'm hoping to make an offer this week. Purchasing agent, traffic control technician, made an offer, but no response back from him. So that doesn't look so good. And an as needed security officer, and I did not put in, we do have a facility and ground tech position open for the park department. Courthouse carpet project for Judge Bannister's courtroom is scheduled for March 15th during spring break. And the flooring project for the treasurer's office is scheduled for the first 2 weeks of April. A little bit of disruption in that, but hopefully we get that floors done, walls painted, and new blinds put up all in those 2 weeks. Still working on a contract with Ham for a transfer station. Once that's done, we'll have some rates increases and rate to come back to you. Evan's been working on it, but the rates for benefit districts, mainly the water. Trying to catch up with the city's increases the last couple of years. And the next few years that we're trying to get back. We're a little bit behind on those. So we need to get those in front of you. Manual Township meeting is March 8th at Parra Hall. Don't have a big agenda yet, so we're working on it. And just found out this morning the mag chloride for our dust control. Of course, those prices are up now 8 cents a gallon, from $1.42 to $1.50 a gallon. So we'll have to reevaluate where we're going to be on prices before we send that out on the 1st of April, I think. And hopefully get it laid down in May like normal. So, any questions or anything you need to ask about?
No. Township officers meeting. We've the commissioners, we've discussed, the potential about discussing with the township officers. Changing or, discussing concerns with how it's currently set up, the concerns that commissioners get. And considering the different options for counties to go to, and so just want commissioners to know, I think John's working on a commission agenda report with Clancy. Clancy's looking at the legalities on what commissioners have the ability to do. So just wanted you to know staff has talked about it and we're working on it based on the discussion you guys had here. I just wanted to.
I'm working on a car. I haven't set it for it yet. But I look at doing the research first. Yeah, and whether we do want to present that or not to the township meeting. And yes, we will ask you to give a welcome to
The chair.
as the chair.
Oh, okay.
That's why he was looking at you. Not just the whole board.
Just so, yeah, I don't surprise you on the 7th. And
That's usually more heads up than the chair gets, usually when they read the draft agenda.
Oh,
This one-
What time does that meeting start?
it's supposed to, I think, registration starts about 8:30, meeting starts at 9. Depending on how full we are with agenda speakers, we might have to push that a little later, or we could push it a little later. I lost my local road engineer.
It's only.
Yeah, so he was scheduled to teach an LTAP class and had it back out on me. So, and he's usually probably one of our better speakers that we have to talk to the township. I have Mike, of course, he only spent about 5 minutes. Mike Muller, and then KDOT so far, and I do have Director Pete coming to speak with us too. I'm not sure how much time he wants to spend, but I can give him as much time as he wants. I think hoping that it'll be good, conversation about what he expects and his new expectations as he's going further and maybe take some questions from him. That should be at least 45 minutes worth, I would imagine, but I do have a meeting with him in next week or so before the township meeting, so we'll see how much time he needs or wants.
Township discussion could be lengthy or interesting, depending on who's there.
That could, and on how
So it
we,
could take for another time.
how excited we get him there.
Yeah, he's been making the rounds too, so it's good to have him there, so.
Anything else?
Can anybody hear me at the moment?
Yes,
Go ahead.
I think, if we're good township structure, maybe one of the things that should be discussed at this meeting, or at least at some point in time, is what other counties have done who were a township once and then moved back, and kind of the process they used to do it. It's just
Research I've done so far, we might have a hard time finding anybody that knows that. The last county that went from township to county unit was Coffee County in '79. And I think somewhere in the late '90s, maybe, I can't remember, Osage County tried and it got voted down. That was the most recent, but
we do have stats though, as far as how many or what type of system on counties.
So does that have to be voted on by township or by?
That gentleman's doing the research on it.
I don't know yet. I'm not going to guess. We'll have that. It'll be fully fleshed out. So you get a chance to see it before the meeting.
Anything else?
Just want to keep the commission up to date on it, because if we bring that up to township officer meeting, could be a robust discussion. You guys, the commission, will have to be on the same page on what direction we really want to go.
I don't know if I'll bring you a recommendation when I bring it to you the next week or so, but I will bring you the history and background of what I found out.
All right.
LTAP has, and I can't remember the date of it. LTAP wrote an article about the townships, the county unit system. Clay County engineer at the time. Lou Lowry was at Potawatomi County at the time, and Leon were all interviewed as their recommendations or their preference. I think the 2 out of the 3 preferred the township unit. Potawatomi is one of those rural townships where the county takes care of all the roads, but you have 2 different budgets. You got a county budget for county roads and a township budget for township roads. And they don't, you gotta have 2 books, keep track of time, equipment, material, for both.
Is that typical or atypical?
That is 3 counties in the state.
Oh, only do it that way with 2 separate?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's Clay. Potawatomi. One other one just to the east.
I didn't even know that was an option.
Mhm.
Because I remember there was 3, when they used those 3 different types.
There are 3 different types. Type we have county, what's it called? County unit and then county highway.
County unit is the county takes care of all the roads. The township, county township is the, like what we have. And rural township is the 3rd system where the 2 different budgets, and the county takes care of everything.
Oh, yeah. The 3rd one is just the.
It's probably your preference on if we switched, which of those 2 might be good to know, for the commission.
Yeah, okay.
Because they'll be the ones set in the middle, I think, then.
Yeah.
and it would be if I could just follow up real quick, that'd be good information to know ahead of the township meeting, just so we have some bases and foundation if we're gonna have that discussion.
Yeah, John, I don't know if you heard the discussion before, but that's what I'd said. John is working on a commission agenda report to present to the board about those very things, and Clancy's doing the legal research on how it can or cannot be approved.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's kind of, my feed's kind of cutting in and out. So, yeah.
There's one thing for sure, it will not be cheaper for the taxpayers if you go that route. There's no doubt about it, but what you have is better maintained, more consistently maintained roads in our entire community. Which are the concerns all of us here, even I, get calls on.
And what John always talks about is then the argument becomes sequence. Those addressing those very.
Have found out what roads that the townships are maintaining and are not maintaining, and probably could be, I don't know. That we would be probably asked to take over once we.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's not insurmountable,
Once
just
and
another
if-
issue.
But yeah, I'm sure there'll be a list when you say, oh, the county's doing, they're all gonna, oh, you're gonna fix my road tomorrow?
That's the other.
Exactly. And why isn't mine being done first?
Yeah,
It'll take many years to implement
yeah.
It's
in many
not
budgets.
It's not an immediate solution, Dave. Just another alternative.
Well, like,
I'll
that's
be-
why they're
I'll be
getting all
dealt
the
with.
information. All those
Yeah,
details.
yeah.
I just think it's good for the commission to be thinking about, because this is a big
Oh, yeah.
topic, a big
Yeah.
issue, correct? That's why I wanted to bring it up. Especially with the other two.
Well, if it means anything, I've received 2 emails just over the weekend here on the subject. So it's front and center, just in general.
Just be aware that it's traditional to punish the county engineer if it doesn't go right. Not really, but I'm just throwing that out there. as a possibility. I just wanted to see if I could get John to leave the meeting,
Leave or lead? I could leave.
run away.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
And the attorney quickly steps up to push somebody in front.
Proud tradition.
No press conference items, commissioners, Clancy Pullman at 9:35.
Meeting Wednesday and transfer session. I haven't read that.
Yeah, I was saying even, she's, after the township meeting last year.
I didn't know.
She guys think, why don't you guys just take it over?
We had another one for just resignation to Commissioner. Yeah, John, and talking to him since we've been meeting on this.
Your
Three of us,
turn.
he gets contacted weekly at least once a week. The other 3 are on road issues in town here, so he hasn't worked over to do anything on it. And they always ask, like, just like when they call our office, too, hey, you guys make me do it.
No, I think,
Or separate.
Oh, I got it. The last one I got. Your holdings, they say, oh, you need to do it. Don't have the reports. Well, yeah,
It's gotten worse and worse over time. And it's always been an issue. See, I didn't used to have an issue with it in our township because years ago, where I live, the Grant Township contracted with Riley County. So they were maintaining very well. And the big thing is they didn't have any more money that they didn't have, but the county has the right investment to do it. Would make recommendations when they go out and check the roads, and this really needs to be done. But now they contract with some guys who retired from Riley County Public Works. They don't have the equipment, and the township doesn't want to spend the money. In particular, our township wants to spend it on their asphalt roads that they have in their benefit districts and the roads that they put road benches on. That's where all of the money goes to. So it's an antiquated system, and really, that's one of the downfalls of Kansas County government, in my opinion, to a lot of others. Is we have too many small taxing entities, some subsidiary taxing entities, and there's, especially townships, there's no consistency.
Yeah, I saw an article. Explained about that, how many different.
Levels of taxing
there are
authority.
within the state, when you start like taking all the townships on the cemeteries, they have this list of. Unbelievable about taxing districts. No, then one guy called us like this. We didn't do this road. File the roads for this snow. I said, well, we do the county roads. We all do the county. I think it was Grant Township contracted the county to do a couple of the roads, not all of them, is not his, but the one next to it was, why are we doing that one? and not-
And see, that's the other thing. that's
Except he
not-
wasn't bad, he was civil about it.
What I like about it is it would be equal treatment for all taxpayers in Riley County.
Mhm.
What would we do with the roads townships don't even acknowledge that were never built to the standards? I was thinking like, why change it?
Well, there's some roads, like there's one road, a low water crossing out in my area where it comes to that T and Stockdale Park Road goes right, like the county designated that road. I remember when it was brought in here decades ago to be a minimum maintenance road. You can designate
And
some roads
yeah,
a minimum
especially
maintenance
at the
road.
northeast corner, there's
But
some.
that minimum maintenance road is better than my regular township road, and so
Oh, there's some, those minimum maintenance ones.
There are some in
they're like a
townships.
cow path.
it was shortly after I got my newer truck that I took my son-in-law out on. It was after a freeze thaw. It was a good thing I had four-wheel drive because it was an open township road. It was everything you could do to get down that thing in four-wheel drive with mud tires. It was horrible.
Yeah. I see when I was at one of that northeast, Sweet Creek. There's a few of those that are called minimum maintenance, and they've got the big sign thing. Then front. I looked at the other one, I'm gonna drive.
It's time to say.
Yeah, okay, it's fine. Clancy.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Clancy Holman, Riley County Councilor. We have a pending project listed before you. New and improved, pared down. Believe it or not, it is pared down. There are still some items that are not, they're showing entries, but that's because I know they will be. They'll have entries at some point, or I suspect they will. Now they could come back. And as previously, all the italicized text are new entries from the last time you saw the report. That's the goal each time, is to age even looking at items. One of the heaviest ones you're going to see, particularly for the one next reporting period, but this one too, is under legislation. Because you've got a flurry of legislative activity, as you know, from all the various sources. You've already weighed in on a couple of items appropriately, items like the treasurer's tag bill. I'm not going to go by numbers because the numbers change anyway. The tag bill, the additional funding to local health departments, you've weighed in on those with written testimony. The next item that you have in terms of your platform is Senate Bill 162. And that is going to be tomorrow. That's going to be heard in Senate Local Government. Commissioner Ford will be testifying on behalf of the board. You've seen all the testimony. You've seen the board's testimony that Commissioner Ford will be talking about. Again, he's not going to read the testimony. He's going to talk about that. He's kind of giving the way we got it structured. He's going to give kind of the 10,000-foot level view of things, literally, I guess, in some sense, because there are 3 aerials attached to his testimony, 3 aerials of properties that this bill would be could address. Not saying that those are necessarily ones where it would be used, but they're good examples, primarily of some of the practical problems the way the current law reads. And as his testimony makes clear, and hopefully my testimony will make clear, and hopefully Deputy Counselor Craig Cox's testimony will make clear, the history of these properties is a powerful argument why Senate Bill 162 could be a real help, not just to us, but to other counties across the state in dealing with nuisance real properties in the unincorporated area. And the goal here is not to make every property look like it's something in the middle of a city. There's an ag exemption. The bill, it does not address agricultural property use. It does not. Neither did Senate Bill 52. And the reason that's important is, you know, the history, but maybe some of our audience today is not aware of, is that online is that Senate Bill 52 was what Sedgwick County got, what became a state statute in July of 2021 It's going to expire because it has a sunset provision in 2024 in July. We copied that. We used that as a model. If it's good enough for Sedgwick County, it presumably might be good enough for other counties across the state, because it really gives the legislature, and what we're going to argue, quite frankly, is it gives the legislature a chance to have us show them we're worthy of being trusted on this, that it can be used reasonably and fairly.
Do you have anything showing how Sedgwick County has been able to use it?
I
Or has
did-
it been too short a time?
Well, it's not that. I focused on, for purposes of our testimony, it's a good idea though. And
Okay,
certainly
just-
in future hearings, we can
Talk
do
about
that.
it.
And we can even potentially, what I'd like to do is maybe bring somebody from Sedgwick County and kind of tell their story a little bit about it. So I don't want to we got to strike a balance here, obviously.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah.
well, it's not even just that. It's more, I don't want to confuse them with what are we really here to do? Are we here to keep Sedgwick counties in place, or do we need new legislation? Is what we need, and we need legislation that's modeled on theirs. And other counties do too. You're aware, at least one other county is working, last I knew. I haven't seen anything yet, but is probably at least going to appear personally with some testimony. That's Crawford County. We have a commissioner there that's very motivated, presumably their entire board is, to say that this is a good thing. One of the questions I was asked, perfectly legit, was, well, if you get yours, does that automatically mean that ours gets tacked on too if we show up? And I said, no, it doesn't work that way. Nothing that simple. And I was upfront and said, what we're really doing, the only issue before them is, do they work this bill with a mind towards possibly giving Riley County the same authority that they gave Sedgwick County for a limited period of time, 3 years of dealing with nuisance properties in a way that makes sense? Because the current system, as our testimony points out to the committee, it doesn't really allow that. What it says is the Court of Appeals opinion, it's Barnes versus I can't remember what county it was. I think it was Cali County, Barnes versus Cali. But it's the Barnes case. It's a Court of Appeals decision from just a few years ago, and it restricts counties from dealing with nuisance properties because it says, unlike cities can go in, of course, and take care of nuisance properties and put a lien on them. And that's done pretty frequently by cities on appropriately dilapidated structures and that kind of thing, and they can put a lien on the property. Counties can't do that because the statute that gives counties the authority to deal with nuisances is restricted. It's in the Code of Enforcement for County Resolutions, and that Court of Appeals opinion says there's nothing in this statute that gives counties the specific authority to place a lien on property, so they can't do it. Well, that's the problem, because that's the most effective way to deal with these kind of properties. That's what
Clancy, if you guys can still hear me,
Sure. Yes, sir. Did you want to add something, Commissioner?
yeah, I actually did. I just want to throw one caveat out there. When you talk about there's another county, there may be a second county. In my conversations with the Ford County Commissioner Friday night, they're wanting to do something similar. So they're going to be looking at this too. And so we may have a situation where it's a domino effect where one county does it, Crawford County does it, Ford County does it, and everybody just kind of lines up. So it may force the legislature's hand at some point. Have to look at a one size fits all policy, or as I think, short-term rentals across the state may force the legislature's hand as well. Just my two.
No, that's a good point. I mean, that's why we didn't have any problem. I was glad when you were contacted by Crawford County to talk to them, and you had more conversations with them than I did. We had a very good conversation, Craig and I did, late last week with their county counselor and one of their commissioners about what we were going to do. And they just wanted to be aware, and they were being very helpful because they just wanted to know what we expected, what's the best way they could help. And we told them, if you've got pictures, because they said, we've got photographs just like you've got photographs. And I said, bring them, because the more they see of that, I think it's hard to answer the question, why shouldn't counties be allowed to deal with something like this in a way that's fair and reasonable? And actually, again, the idea is that the cleanup cost shouldn't be borne by everybody else. It should be borne by the property that's causing the problem. And it does not result in a judgment against the owner of the property. It's not a personal liability. It's against the property. And so essentially we'll have to be satisfied. Commissioner, did you have something?
I think a really good question to ask here too is, for instance, here in Riley County, if 97% of properties, whether the ag, whether the commercial, whether the residential, or however they're zoned, are in compliance, why is it fair that 3% don't stay in compliance? I think that's a good question that really needs to be thought out and really needs to have a justification and an answer to.
Well, you convinced me. So, I agree. Now, that's an excellent point. It's the kind of thing that, again, what we're going to try and do is not read our testimony, but use it as kind of highlights and address any questions they've got. Because there's no certainty as to how this will turn out, obviously, anytime you're in front of the legislature. About the one thing you can be certain of, from what I've seen, is there'll be something will go sideways in a way you don't expect. Doesn't mean it can't be addressed, but you may have a concern by one member of the committee or members of the committee that you have to come back. But that's a good thing, really. I mean, if they're raising things and willing to listen to the answer, that's okay. So that's kind of where we stand. I just want to give you some background on it. The more counties that join in on this, the better, as far as I'm concerned. And KAC had indicated that actually Jay Hall's at the same conference Commissioner Ford's at. And so I know his plan was to turn in some written testimony in support of the counties that haven't seen it yet. Usually what happens in these hearings is you see the deadline is actually today in about 40 minutes for testimony to be turned in. But a lot of times it's not seen until the day of the hearing. And so you show up early, everybody's testimony is laid out by the committee secretary. I'm going to talk with our legislator, our lobbyists, and see if there's a way to get that. I'd like to see it before tomorrow. See what some of the, if there's any opposition, I'd like to see what it says. Do you have any questions about Senate Bill 162 or how we're proceeding or any of the legislative items so far? I know I've been burying you in material on pending bills. I will say our delegation's doing a great job of providing. Rich has weighed in on some things that involving elections and our delegation took seriously what we said at the legislative conference, which was when you have questions about bills that affect an area of the county and you want answers, get with us and ask what the county thinks about it. They're doing a great job. The problem is there's so many, it's tough to pick the ones that you want to spend time responding to. Because remember, one of the lobbyists actually for a different organization pointed out something great, which I kind of wondered about, but he confirmed what I was guessing at, that there are so many of these bills that are ending up in committees and could end up in shells for completely different legislation or for legislation that is totally 180 degrees different from what the bill came in on. And that's going to mean that I think this session, even more so than some of the recent ones, just as and again, I'm not a professional lobbyist, so they may correct me on this. I think the most important part of this session is going to be near the end when those shells start showing up as the session closes, and suddenly something that was on, I don't know, property tax liability for daycare turns into something totally different. And,
Well, I say this 162. Oh, yeah, we've been figuring it.
it could
And all of a sudden it's something about.
You just described my nightmare. Yes, Senate Bill 162 becomes something that permanently forbids counties from ever.
Got to go.
Yeah.
Got to go. I wish they'd make that illegal in the legislature.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Well, the board, you'll recall, the previous board tried to get support. I will say at that time, from the then current delegation about getting rid of that or having rule change or something, but we were told, no, we have to have that because that's the way to get things accomplished at the end of the session. If you're then in the process, I think sometimes it doesn't, you're not hearing the part of it that, yeah, it works for you. It doesn't work for the people that are trying to You tell us you want transparency, but we don't see something until 24 hours before you floor debate. It's in floor debate. We can't do anything. So anyway, just want to. I don't know. I'll stop talking about it. About the process. It is a different animal. But unless you have something else, that's all I've got.
Okay, so.
Thanks.
Thanks for sharing.
Thank
Amanda
you.
Webb at 9:55. Morning, Amanda.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm all right.
Amanda, I didn't even use any of your time.
This one.
Yeah. Well, that. Long-term idea, I mean, that cleanup thing, if we do it, and then somebody else eventually, and so. Well, it's working fine in these 3 counties, just make it for everybody.
That's the hope, it's kind of a balance, because one of the things that concerns me as a professional warrior is that, well,
That's what we hired you for.
do we scare them? Do we scare them for those who are opposed to the idea? We're gonna have 104 counties, 102 other counties asking for this. I keep getting told 2 different things. I'm told there's 3 counties that are designated urban areas, and I'm being told there's only 2. Sedgwick County's one of them, Johnson County's one. I've heard Wyandotte is, but that didn't figure in. One of the people who should know and is telling me there's only either 2 or 3. And if you do that urban area designation, the way the Constitution of the state reads, that's special legislation, but it's uniform. And that means if it's uniform, the county that's subject to it can't charter out, can't change it, can't turn it into saying something, which is a safeguard.
Really, it all gets back to home rule.
Yeah.
We had home rule, we could.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah. But we'd have more flexibility. We'd still be subject to uniform legislation, just like cities are. But what we would avoid is special legislation.
Yeah. Good, so
But they have shown that they can have uniform things like tax lid. It's uniform. I mean, there's no question it's uniform. Nobody could charter out from it, but it wasn't a great idea. So much they themselves got rid of it. So. It's always interesting. I will say that. Our delegation's doing a great job of saying, hey, here's this one. This is on the property tax. What's the county think about it?
Yeah.
What in particular?
Yeah. We're getting a bunch of stuff back. That concerns me. I'm concerned about the number of shells that are going to be out there.
That doesn't even make sense, but then that's the other thing. It doesn't make sense over there.
Not to me, it doesn't. I don't know. But I can also understand they're doing such a good job of providing those bills. I now understand they do get overwhelmed by the amount of material that they're being asked to read and understand. Just from the stuff we're getting.
Yeah. just
From one,
like I said,
primarily
just
from one legislator, right?
Johnson saying, okay, I've got this whole lot, he's saying, I've got all these things to look at, just in his committees.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, no wonder you're reading it, no wonder some legislators are either not reading it because they don't have time, or they're reading it, but maybe they're missing something.
they're reading the headline that, oh yeah, that sounds good.
Exactly, yes.
The first paragraph, and then go a paragraph down, there's a firewall in it.
Or they rely on someone else's opinion of it.
Yeah.
Yep,
Scary or bark.
it is.
When did you get DC when they had 3,000 page bills?
Oh, yeah.
Nobody said,
I've been so disgusted in the past of previous years, some bill get introduced and get passed. There's no way anyone humanly possible had a chance to.
Well, and they will justify voting for it because we'll figure it out after it's passed. That's been said before.
Yeah, that always works.
I'll have staff review it in a short period of time. Okay, Amanda.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. Amanda Webb, Planning Director. So here again for another workshop about planning and development's fee schedule. Excuse me. You remember last week we talked about the license category, the different licenses we deal with in planning and development. Today, we're going to do land use, our land use petitions and everything that goes into that portion of it. I don't think we cover this one. I know that the first work session I had with you folks in January, I tried to put it all in, obviously way too much, and I don't think we ever actually even touched on this one, so this will all be new discussion with you folks, so. And so I have, attached there, I have the table with the different land use division titles, and then the current fee and some proposed fees, and then I have some justification discussion afterwards. I'm gonna mix that up a little bit from what how I have it in the report, just to kind of start with the easier stuff and then move to maybe the more items that need a little bit more discussion. So we have two new land use petition processes, if you will, that have been started since we last updated the fee schedule in 2012. Actually, they're new with the 2022 adoption of our LDR. So they're pretty new processes that we haven't done before, and that's the administrative adjustment and the exception. So I want to talk a little bit, and of course, right now they don't have fees associated with them. So I want to talk a little bit about what each of those processes are and compare them to some of the other processes that we do, because I know we talked before about if a process is fairly similar, even if it's a different, different outcome that we're doing, in theory, they should be roughly the same kind of fee. So that's what I want to talk a little bit about here and kind of compare them to some of the others that we do that have roughly the same process. Stop me at any time if you have questions or if I'm talking too fast, you need more information. So again, administrative adjustments, they are new with our updated LDR land development regulations that were effective January 1, 2022. The intention behind this process is we're bringing existing structures into compliance by granting up to 10% relief from a horizontal distance requirement. So those are your setbacks, essentially. So it is done administratively, so it's done in-house. We don't bring it before the planning board, the board of zoning appeals, for you folks. That's done by staff, since it's a fairly minor thing that we do there. And so that's pretty much equivalent to what we do for a boundary line adjustment, and as well as a lot split. Both of those are administrative. We do those at the staff level. They don't necessarily get risen to the planning board, board of zoning appeals, or you folks, because again, they're pretty minor in intensity, if you will. Boundary line adjustment is just that you're moving a line between two pieces of property. Lot split is also just that, and it's different from a plat. So those are very, very basic processes that we do administratively. Administrative adjustments are the same thing. There's something that again will be just that, administrative, so we can do it at the staff level, and the process is the same. So we'll review it. We have the public notice for this one that we don't have for the others. And both of the boundary line adjustment and the lot split have current fees of $100 each. And that's what I'm proposing for the administrative adjustment, because again, the process is relatively the same. So, any questions or thoughts on that one so far?
So the administrative adjustment is just one, it doesn't add on to the other adjustments.
It's by itself. It's just a very basic thing. I don't honestly see using this one a whole ton, and it's very, very specific what it's intended for. It's just looking at those existing structures that come into compliance. Basically, of course, when we do rezones, when we do them county rezones, not when somebody comes to request a rezone. When we finish regulations, now we have this setback versus what used to be. A lot of times we will create issues, if you will, we'll create non-conformings, and that's just the way it is. That's not abnormal. And so this kind of gives a little bit of a simple process for fixing those. And so similar is the exceptions. And again, that's another new process that came about with the LDR adoption for effective January 1, 2022. So this does go before Board of Zoning Appeals. And this is about granting exceptions up to 20% relief from dimensional standards. And those are your heights, your lot width, your lot depth, your setbacks, floor area, all of those measurable standards that can be requested to be varied. Again, this one, I equate it to, in Washington, we have what's considered a minor variance versus a major variance. A minor is obviously a little less intensive. In this case, it's 20% or less. So a variance, of course, is your larger, maybe we could go all the way to 0% or 0 foot setback, that kind of thing. So that's a lot more intensive. That's a lot more major, needs a little bit more scrutiny, a little bit more review. The minor, where we're just looking at 20%, is again just that, it's a little bit more minor. And there's a few other standards related to signs that this could apply to, height restrictions in the airport overlay district, telecommunication towers, tower dimensional standards, and parking. So again, anything that's 20% below in those categories, somebody could request, and it would go to our board of zoning appeals to review and decide upon. So they do require a pre-application conference, application submittal and review, public notice, staff report, and public hearing with the, again, Board of Zoning Appeals to review and decide. It's pretty much the same process as what we do for a regular variance, and that one is 300. However, like I just explained, the intensity of a regular variance is greater. You know, these are more impactful maybe to the neighbors, to other things like that. So it's going to need a little bit more deeper review than a minor variance might. So that's why I am proposing $100 for the exception versus the 300 that's already in place for your regular variance. Even though the process is the same, there's just a little bit less intensity to it, a little less, you know, scrutiny, if you will, that we need to do. So I do believe it makes sense to have that difference in the fees that we're assessing for that. Questions, thoughts on that? Okay, so the next two that I have are really just clarifications. I'm not proposing any new fees or changes in fees. I just want our new fee schedule to be very, very clear and transparent about what we're doing and what the process is and what the fee is for these. So our type 1 and type 2 special event permits are currently assessed $100 each. Type 3 permits are, of course, special event permits are done by conditional use because they're a lot more intensive again. So that's going to be something that will go before the Board of Zoning Appeals to decide upon. It's going to be the regular conditional use land use process. Type 1 and type 2 are done administratively. It's done by staff in planning and development. So our current conditional use permit fee is $400. That's of course because a type 3 permit would be a conditional use. That's what we would charge for it. So again, not proposing to change that fee or anything like that. I just want to actually list it on the fee schedule so it's obvious that type 3 equals conditional use permit equals $400. So just want to be very, very clear on our fee schedule, because right now they're a little bit clumped together and it says 100. I just don't want any confusion about, you know, which process we're looking at, which fee we're looking at. So same kind of thing for easement vacations. Not proposing any change to the fee itself. Instead, I'm just proposing to remove the word easement, because we can do vacations for a wide variety of things. It's not just easements. And it would be the same kind of process, same, you know, review, same fee. I just want to remove the word easement and just say vacation, because again, it's a little bit confusing because it can and does apply to plats, roads, streets, alleys, utility easements, those sorts of things. So just want to be very clear that that process is not just about easements. Does that make sense?
The only thing is, there's two different easement vacations listed.
Yeah.
Go back to the very bottom, and then up at the top, there's one for 200, and then the bottom one says 300.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. It's likely it was a mistake I made. So let's go. I'm looking at our current fee schedule, and we just have one listed on there for 200, so I apologize, that was just a double there, and just,
I thought I was wondering if there was a difference. I
Yeah,
thought that's what you were saying, that there are different, making all the same.
yeah, and it can happen, but
Yeah.
I apologize, I just made a mistake, so,
Okay.
but I
But I just
appreciate
wanted
pointing
to
that.
clear it absolutely. Right about that way.
Right, exactly, and then get lots of calls.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, I'm gonna make it. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about. Kind of has to do with a lot of our petitions as a whole. So of course, many of them do require mailing notification to 1,000-foot property owners. Publishing of a notice of public hearing in the newspaper, and then recording of resolutions. In the newspaper after they're done and approved. Not all of them require publishing of the resolution, but most of them do require notification to the 1,000-foot property owners, as well as the publishing for notice of public hearing in the newspaper. And as we talked about, of course, over the years, all of those sorts of associated fees for publishing, mailing, those sorts of things have gone up. And again, I'm not proposing that we assess the applicant the entire fee, but I do think we should look at maybe offsetting, some of the county's costs versus the applicant cost, at least somewhat. And I have included in this packet some information from the last couple of years of our land use petitions that shows what the fee that was paid and what came out of that, basically. So we have our notice of public hearing, what that cost was for us to publish that in the newspaper. And then the resolution is, again, as you can see, not everything has a resolution public, but the ones that do, that would be something that comes out of the fee that they give us. We don't charge, actually, we don't make them do it. Anything that's recorded or is filed with the Register of Deeds, that is paid for by the applicant, or their representative or whatnot. That's not something that we pay for. And what's not on here, because it is, in the grand scheme of things, it is minor, is our mailing cost. Yes, that's gone up, but again, not comparatively, it's not a giant amount versus some of the publishing costs or recording fees, those sorts of things. So kind of thought we would just focus on that with this spreadsheet that I have here. So in, let's see, in 2020, we spent planning and development, county, of course, spent $5,800 in legal publication fees. 2021, we spent $4,700. 2022, we spent $3,580. And of course, this is all dependent on many applications we get throughout the year, what type of applications they are, what they're going to require, i.e. do they require publication of the resolution, how many adjacent property owners do we have to notify, because that can impact how long the public hearing it, the notification of public hearing and the resolution itself, which all kind of impacts what those costs are going to be. So they're not necessarily something we can assume, oh yes, it's going to be X each time. It really is kind of dependent, but so rather than so what I'm thinking is, rather than increase the base fees for these processes, because the process hasn't really changed and the time taken to do it hasn't really changed, because again, everything's been fairly consistent. Process is the same since we did this in 2012. So staff time again is pretty much the same. So it doesn't really work to justify, well, now it's taking staff longer or the process has changed or that kind of thing. So I don't think it really works to say, okay, every single land use petition is going to be bumped by X. It just doesn't match up like that. So something I'm thinking about, and a lot of communities do, Miami County just adopted a new fee resolution, and other jurisdictions I've worked in have done this, is assessing an additional fee for your notice of publication, your publication of notice of public hearing, your mailing fees, those sorts of things. And that would be, of course, applicable to anything that has those, of course. We wouldn't apply that to like your boundary line adjustment. We don't do those public hearing, we don't mail to the adjacents. That's why I don't want to do a flat, everything's just gonna go up by X amount. I want to do it specific to the ones that actually have these additional fees attached to them. So what I'm looking at, or what I'm considering and would love some input on is $50 additional flat $50 fee for notices of public hearing to include the notification mailings. And then an additional flat $50 fee for any project that requires a resolution to be published. Resolutions are only published for your rezoning, special use permits, and text map amendments, so we don't get them a whole ton, but we do have them. So again, as you can see in the table, that doesn't really cover the whole thing, and that's not really the intent, but it will kind of offset some of those additional costs that we do pay several thousand for, each year. So that's just kind of something I was thinking about to help with some of those fees. So I don't know if you folks have any questions or thoughts on that.
Makes sense, with the art, those publishing things.
The fees for all of that have definitely gone up. So that's all I wanted to talk specific to land use fees. So do you folks have any questions or comments overall about anything we talked about, or anything we haven't necessarily talked about yet that we can cover? Or
One of them on there says a road name change. That isn't for when we're changed. That's if they want to change it, right? Not correct. I know we're that 9.
yes, so when NG 911 does
NG
it,
does.
we don't assess the fees for the
Okay.
folks. That's, of course, us doing that, or having people change, so we pay for all of that.
Okay.
When somebody comes to us and requests, which happens, I mean, I think maybe it's happened once since I've been here, but when somebody actually wants, hey, I want to change the name of my road, they're asking to do it. We're still putting the same amount of work into it. So yes, we assess them.
Yeah, that's a friend, not here, but in Leavenworth. Their road, because it had been, it was a county poor farm, it was Poor Farm Road, and they got everybody to agree to, to go to the county and change it, because they didn't like having that on their.
It's understandable.
On their mail all the time.
Yeah, so it's that kind of thing. You don't like your road name.
Yeah.
Other thoughts or questions?
Oh,
And where it says continually, where now it says easement vacation, it'll just say vacation.
Correct. Yeah. So again, it can apply to a lot of different things, not just easements. I just felt that was a little confusing. It's just. So Thursday, we're gonna discuss environmental health fees, and then next week, I'll bring kind of the whole picture back and we can look at it again. I want to talk about, we talked a little bit initially about the layout of it, about that again. So we'll have a couple more work sessions, to make sure you guys are comfortable with what we're doing. And then after those, I'll bring back one more formal resolution that we can discuss and vote on. So I think that's my plan. So, okay. Anything else?
Sounds good.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thanks, Amanda. Have a good day.
You too.
Put that into our main business. Is there anything else we need to discuss?
I got two things if I could run by the board. One's regarding the city county meeting. You requested discussion on the animal shelter. Got an email from Ron Fear. I guess Karen Hipper's retirement's that day at 4 o'clock, and then Fort Riley hasn't been at 2 o'clock. So he suggested we discuss it, but in March. And really because that would give his staff more time to be prepared to answer questions. That way they can do some work on it, because I don't think they've got everything finalized on their end or very far on their end. But he also asked, it would be good to know what information the county commissioners would like to have as background. So I told him I would ask the commissioners that question, and that way we can let him know kind of the direction we want the conversation to go.
Well, my question is, where are they? You know, they seem to be
Statistics.
willing to make changes and then throw them at us. Let us know ahead of time, but also the statistics about how many. For what we pay and what Pot County pays, how much is it used?
Yeah, what's the difference, you know? And.
They try to get a
Yeah,
straight
like
answer
why
out of
are our
last time.
taxpayers paying for Pot County
Yeah,
services?
Anything else I can relate to?
and can they set up something with the small towns? Because they say there's something set up that it's not.
Agreements with small towns.
Yeah.
Rich, what's the date of that if it's in March?
Oh. In March, he's saying 9th, 23rd, or 16th. No, 9th or 23rd versus the 16th.
So just these two events are coming up that they want to change because of those two events.
Well, they're wanting to not have one then.
Yeah,
So,
like,
ideas.
for next Thursday is primarily Karen Hibbard's retirements from 4 to 6. There's also an event, at Fort Riley at 2 o'clock that may impact some folks' return. And it looks like, I guess Chad, maybe his animal shelter guy has a conflict, so we're gonna need him there.
So basically, you're saying just not having.
Not have the meeting at all.
Yeah.
And that's, I just wanted to know when in March, because we still need to come in and show you where we are currently on our side
Yeah.
with the resolution. And I've told Craig and I've discussed that, and he's gonna be bringing that into you.
Okay.
You prefer more, the 9th or 23rd?
Doesn't make any difference. We'll get it back in front of you.
Well, so we have a township.
I'm always gonna err on the side of further out rather than closer, but
Well, that was my
either,
first thought as well.
either works.
Actually.
But
We
yeah,
normally have those on which. It's on Monday, right?
Thursday, city county's on a
I know
Thursday.
which week is it normally? Second, third?
I never can remember this. alternate schedule.
Usually,
Have my own schedule.
usually a third Thursday.
That's what I was. Yeah. Same time as the Good Morning. Same day as the Good Morning I had.
So the third Thursday in March.
That'd be the
It's in March,
16th.
isn't it?
It's
So why?
That'd be the 16th if I'm reading. the calendar. Maybe it's not.
Yeah, that's the end of everybody.
Oh,
Yeah.
But they're saying,
suggested either the 9th or 23rd, because evidently they have a conflict on the 16th as well of March, so.
sure,
Let's go to the 23rd, commissioners.
is that okay?
Gives all staff on both sides more time to prepare and present, because our staff has to prepare something and still present it to you guys first, so. Okay. Sounds good. And then did a little research in some time here regarding something that Captain brought up, flag etiquette.
Oh,
It should be to your left and all other flags should be to its right. So
Okay.
correct on being to our left, so that flag should
That
be over
needs to
there.
Go over there, okay.
Other thing, on the Army side, I found some additional information, army.mil. The flag should not be held captive. The flag should flow freely when someone walks by and move, meaning that is not correct.
Smooth. I walk by and move.
I don't think they count if you stand there and just move it.
So it's whatever the board wants to know. Wish we'd have thought about checking that before, but that's what it says.
that's a military one.
It is not to be held captive. It is supposed to flow freely indoors and outdoors.
Well, we could put a fan under there and have it move around.
Yeah, turn on these fans.
They're not gonna move anyway.
Oh, they can,
It moves, I mean, when they were hanging straight, they didn't move.
They didn't move
Unless
either.
you bumped them and they.
Well, it's just meant you're not supposed to have anything to hold them.
Well, how
I
do
don't care. It's up to you guys.
I like.
I'm just letting you know what I found.
We'll move.
We can move that over there. Maybe we can take that.
A
picture and
military
move it over
community,
here.
sometimes people may call us on
Yeah.
things, we'll just say, oh, thanks for letting us know. We have
Well-
more people that are probably knowledgeable of that in our community
Right,
than
than
most.
most, yes.
Because I remember in the past, we got raked over the coals for one over the courthouse because it wasn't lit at one point in time.
Feel
Yeah,
like
because you
it's
can't,
nighttime.
if it's on at night, that stays
So
up.
there are people that watch different things for sure.
sure.
Well, yeah, if we move that, that map over here and move that over there, it'd be fine.
Yep, we'll do that.
So,
We'll do that.
And then move, maybe they can figure out why the.
maybe they can figure out why it's
why
crooked.
it's leaking. I don't know if you put something into the base. I don't know.
It's the
Shove
top
it a little
part.
bit.
You know, where that clamp is might be,
Looks like it's seated all the way.
Yeah,
I think it's
That's
the
what it
base.
looks like.
Maybe it's the floor.
See, it's in there.
Turn around here.
So anyway, just want to let you know what I found.
okay.
Once you brought it up. Oh, yeah, I think.
Let
Let you know. If you inquire
You're
about
not
it.
supposed to wear it either. I don't think.
No, not,
Or wrap it around your body.
not
or-
supposed to be hung on a ceiling and
Yeah.
I learned a lot. Googling that.
People wear it. you
Well, those
know.
things used to be paid attention to. Yeah.
Stars are
Well,
always
this-
to be up, never upside down. So, yeah.
Where- Yeah. Hmm.
There's the,
Another
brought that up, bring that up.
the half, half mass. Yeah, you have to, when you put it on, you run it all the way up and then.
And
bring
then
it
come
down.
back down.
And when you're at the end of the day, you take it up to the top and then bring it down.
Yeah.
You can't just roll it up halfway and leave it.
No, I didn't know. It says it's not supposed to be out in bad weather.
That's
Takes
interesting.
it down in bad
I
weather.
thought, yeah, that's interesting. I
And
thought that was
especially be
okay.
interesting with our one on top of the courthouse.
Right.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's not come back down to the house.
That's what interns are for.
Okay.
Derek, what are you doing today?
IT can also do it. That's perfect. Oh,
You get stuck with a lot of things.
it's an IT matter.
Anything else?
That was it, Commissioner for Business.
Okay. We have a motion.
Yeah. I'll move to adjourn the February 13th Riley County Commission meeting.
I will second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.